I'm just saying, if there's anybody else, like I see all the other volunteer applications, have we announced it to anybody else? Like, that's why Boykin hasn't put in.
Yeah, nobody else has put in for them.
Well, if we haven't announced it, we just,
We can move it off.
I'm just curious.
BWA would,
Yes.
we'll check with people who we think want to do it and
Yeah.
would understand it, because it's a pretty in-depth deal. No takers.
Such a jokester. No. Yeah,
The time is now 6 p.m. and we will call this meeting to order.
Let us pray. Dear Father, 22 years ago, the unthinkable happened and our country was attacked. Almost 3,000 people were killed, thousands were injured, and many still suffer today from the effects. Many grieve the loss of a family member or friend, child. Children lost parents. A country lost their feeling of safety and security. So many wondered where you were in all of this and how you could let this happen to us. You are in the selfless hearts of first responders. You are in the sacrifices of passengers on planes. You are in the gestures of kindness and empathy between strangers. And you were there the following day and each day thereafter as the sun rose again and the rebuilding began and continued. Lord, the wounds have healed, the rubble is gone, but the scars remain. However, the resilience and determination of all has persevered because of you. We thank you, never failing love. As we begin our meeting tonight, our problem seems so small compared to what we saw back then. Help us to see this and to work that brings glory to you. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right.
Thank you for all being here. Thank you guys for showing up. Good to see a crowd out there.
Mr. Gossett will speak on it. Sorry.
Okay. Okay.
It's a gap. We just haven't had a meeting since then.
Make a motion to approve minutes from meeting held on August 8th, 2022.
I'll second.
I had a question before we
Yes, sir.
proceed on that. I know, like, I haven't seen, the last meeting that we had, we never saw any.
From
We're on
DLA.
the Board of
Oh, I'm sorry.
Adjustments meeting.
No problem.
Approval of minutes.
Sorry.
Okay. Discussion and action items.
We didn't-
Oh,
Sorry.
we have a second?
Wait.
Discuss and consider an application for variance to allow additional driveway and culverts be installed and an accessory structure be erected within the side setback in an R1 residential district as requested by Stephen Vosick.
Okay, so Mr. Vosick is here to present. I think Cliff has helped him in some of this workings. So if anybody has any questions. Let me zoom out.
Any impact here is is nominal because Pin Oak is actually just a street with no forward-facing house. It's a transition ditch that has a single break in elevation, so water will go one way or the other. It does not host a long linear run of flow line. We can establish zero impact to drainage here from that concern.
I would think it would only improve drainage actually by putting in, I mean, as it is right now, you know, I think digging that out and putting culverts there would only improve drainage results there actually.
So that's like the side of your house there, right? Your house faces up.
It's a corner lot, yes, sir. Pin Oak is actually, yeah, so you can see the driveway there, and then the front of the house is Worcester Creek Drive up there.
Okay. So you're not trying to put this in your front yard?
No, sir, it would be, yeah, on
Okay.
the side. And
And that's Bobby Ford directly across the street.
Yeah.
Mike.
Okay.
It's basically just an extension of your current driveway, is that
Yes,
correct?
ma'am, an extension of the
Okay.
current driveway, which, you know, would add, you know, additional parking and, you know, I could,
So you're gonna have a building and you're gonna park a camper?
I mean, the camper wouldn't stay full-time, but while I would have it at home from time to time, yes, it would, that's where it would park.
Is it
Correct.
still in place?
Back here?
Yes, and the pool, that would go in the backyard naturally, but where I'm at right now is I'm not gonna spend the money on the pool if I can't have my or, I mean, the house has a 2-car garage right there, but I'm not sure what size car you can fit in there. I mean, my truck's not going in there for sure, you know, and so it more or less gets used for storage, and I would like to have somewhere where I could pull a vehicle in and work on it and stuff, toolboxes and stuff like that. But like I said, the pool, you know,
I just want to point it out, Mr. Fossey, I think it's important because that was one of the reasons you wanted the building where it was, is
Right.
because you have future plans to try to utilize your property in a certain manner, and this would help them understand what you're trying to do.
yes, sir. So I met with the builder, Stuckey Building. I'm not sure if y'all have heard of them, but he's like, you really need to check with the city first before we go any further on dimensions on what we can and can't do. And so, I mean, it's not gonna be terribly tall.
I think there's a limit,
We have like minimum
According
building
to our
requirements if
ordinance.
it's gonna be.
is it a minimum or a maximum for accessory buildings?
Could have a maximum.
Garage doors, and then, you know, just a standard roof line from there. I mean, I wouldn't think it would be anything over 20 feet. I mean, I think it would probably be considerably less than that, actually.
How
So
tall
the
is the
maximum
house?
height for an R1, I'm sorry, Rory, it's
Okay.
25 feet for
The
max,
house is,
for
oh,
ordinance.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, an accessory building though couldn't even be as tall as, if it's taller than 25 feet.
I mean, I don't want it like, I mean, like an eyesore type deal. I want it to kind of flow with what's there and look nice and all of that.
Okay, that was my question, but, you know, ask how tall.
It's supposed to be there, you know,
That's good.
yeah.
so this neighborhood, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't have an HOA, correct? It's no,
No.
more, older, more established neighborhood, okay.
Yes, sir.
Just trying to make sure, like,
Yeah.
from now,
Yeah.
not exceeding the ordinances, almost playing HOA.
No, I mean, it's in our ordinance how high he can make it,
Right.
and so
You're
as long as
enforcing the
yeah,
rules.
What is the height on that?
25 feet.
25? Yeah, I mean, I don't, that won't be a problem at all.
I had brought it to you in the ordinance.
Be somewhere, but yeah, I don't see that being a problem at all.
Maximum height for a home is 35 feet.
Any other discussion items? Or discussion on this?
Mm-mm.
Does anyone wish to make a motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Congratulations.
So we will let, once you submit building plans and move forward with that, BBG will, or our plan review company will be aware of your variance.
Okay. sounds
Okay.
good. Well, I appreciate it, guys.
Okay, time is now 6:13 and our Board of Adjustments meeting is adjourned.
Don't they normally send out letters?
We have
like,
to,
We did, okay, that's what. Okay. Impacted, I said, yeah, okay.
Okay.
Just so you know. Everything is, you should probably do it.
I just didn't see those back.
The ones who went all out last year, he won the.
Oh, they are. They're
thing.
going But I get my
Everything
next
else.
door neighbor, he puts a haunted house on his
Oh,
driveway.
does he? I
Yeah.
didn't realize that.
Sheldon.
Okay,
Yeah.
Just want,
That's
before
what
we get in the middle.
But yeah, they're setting stuff up.
okay. I haven't driven,
I mean,
no.
Get your take
Let
on
me
it.
close the door.
Any questions? Combine those, that one.
Another verbose.
So
B and A?
Yeah, you will combine, so if we-
Same. Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
All right, the time is now 6:14, and we'll get back to our regular scheduled meeting. All council members are still present. Sign-in sheet, we had some more guests come in after this. Did y'all have any public comments?
Mr. Page does.
Yes, sir.
Try to do it back there, but still learn some of the names and I've got glasses. The main reason I wanted to come in is thank everybody on the council and especially Cliff over here. 2 years ago, I came to city council attempt to get that, the signs out front and get a safety zone put in the parking lot. Never came of it. Came in, amended and installed, and I hear you had a lot to do with that, but it was installed in less than a month. And I really appreciate that. Citizens appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And now the good, I gotta get a little bit bad here. Mr. Johnson, I've already, had private with you and didn't understand it. Mr. Challenger, but decorum, please. This is, behind the scenes, but this is in public. But I'd also like to give you a little bit, if you're a kid with special needs and stuff, but let me give you a little scenario out in the real world. Suppose you work for a big chemical company in the area. You've got good insurance, good pay, but then all of a sudden, they have a layoff. You're part of that layoff, but even though you're laid off, you still have a small pension with that company. But the government sees that $1,800 pension, you are no longer eligible for government subsidized. So you found you paid your bills all your life because of a certain situation. You put yourself in where it's not that you don't want to pay those bills. Just talked to some of the Dow retirees here that were here for the 2007 layoffs. You can hear some real stories from them about how hard it was. As far as I always agree with him, but does his job. He's very good and very hard at it. And just a little realize that there's a reason cities have that position. It's so that y'all don't have And I mean, some of y'all know I'll be the first one if I don't agree with something. But he's the one that goes through all the headaches and the hard stuff. Just give him some respect and understanding in these meetings. And that comes back to, I think a part of what that problem was during that budget meeting is the way, for a reason. Yeah, you can't have the camera there, but that's a luxury, not a requirement. But a round table should be held in a conference room. I think that's a lot of what that problem was a couple of weeks ago, is just, and that's basically, I hadn't intended to be in here tonight, but because I did want to come in, thanks and everything, and I figured while I'm here, I might as well get that off my, considering where and how you'll have the meetings. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Page.
you.
Thank you.
Is there anything I wanna see if there's any-
To speak before we carry on? All right.
Ooh, on consent.
Now to the consent agenda. A, approve.
You can see if there's a motion or discussion, or everything wants to be removed.
Can we move the 3 committee positions off for discussion?
We can get a motion.
Make a motion to approve items A and E of the consent.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries.
To B, C, D. So now we'll just move on to
E.
budget,
Oh.
public hearing.
Okay. Moving on to public hearing on proposed 2023-20.
Okay, so each of you should have at your spot this. This is just a summary with some narrative about the budget. And then I've also given, turn to page 4. That is just showing you a consolidated fund summary, just to give you kind of a snapshot view. Point out to you that this budget is based on a tax rate, which we'll talk about later. If that is approved, it's expected to raise about 6.8%. Is tightened to not affect any services, but to avoid any waste that the staff has found. Not waste, but we are including a pay increase of 5% COLA for all city staff, and then they're eligible for up to 3% merit. Our insurance is increased. We did get word, which was good news, that workers' compensation stayed the same. Last year it was our biggest, I think it was, that the 25% that I included in budget for an increase on insurance should be more than ample. It looks like our increase may be around 15 to 20. General liability.
Gotcha.
Our medical insurance did go up some also for employees. So pretty much everything that I touched during this budget process increased. I didn't see anything go down. Dispatch services increased for the police and fire, about $28,000. That's based on a contract that was signed a couple of years ago. Minor amount. Actually, it hasn't been determined for sure, but they can go up 5%. So that's what I've worked in. Once again, I budgeted a contingency fund transfer of 10%, transferring into the equipment replacement fund, as is shown in the document. Okay. So the next page is a summary of the general fund budget. This is summarized. As it sits now with the projected revenues that I have built in here, which includes an ambulance fee of $350 per account, positive at the end of the year. Again, that's projection based on revenues. Any questions on general fund? Okay, the next page is enterprise fund. We talked about our rates at a meeting, a couple of meetings ago. So with the, I do have a typo in here. I see it's $40 off base bill for senior discounts. It's 40%. We're increasing our senior discount from $7.50 per service for water and sewer to 40%. To 40%, not $40. I just now saw that typo. They will get 40% off the base bill for water and for sewer, and then they'll continue to get a $2 discount on their trash service. We also increased tap fees for new connections to cover our expenses. This year, it's mandated by the state to do that every 5 years, as I've discussed in earlier meetings. So that $90,000 is contained within this budget. And then we also have a $70,000 for engineering for the CDBG grant, which we are transferring $70,000 from I&I. Coming in to cover it. One thing that makes it hard for people to understand if you aren't used to accounting, vacation is not a cash expense, but it shows as a cash, or it shows as an expense. On the flip side, showing as an expense or an expenditure are our principal payments on our debt for our enterprise fund. Those do not affect almost offsetting each other totally. We're showing a negative bottom line on the enterprise fund, but that is because of depreciation, so it's not a negative of cash. But we always get some, but I never, there's no way to really know. So that is the enterprise budget. Any questions on that? Okay. The next page is CCPD board, and it was approved at an earlier meeting, but it does have to be part of our budget document tonight. The next page is court security and technology. These are fees that come straight off of citations. The state mandates them, and then the budget was based on more realistic figures, knowing that that was not being done correctly. The next page is beautification. Again, this is the KRB budget. It's really up to on the utility bills, but we manage it for them. Their cash is in our pooled account as well, so I treat that just as another department with the budget. The transportation fund on page 12. The revenue for this is sales tax. We have a 0.5% of sales tax. We have a $5 mandatory fee on our utility bills. That is, sorry, I'm backwards. Sales tax is for streets only. Transportation fee is streets, sidewalks, and drainage. So I keep track of how much of those, because part of it is mandated for strictly streets. The rest can be for any of the three. Expenditures under capital improvements. These are the projects that were approved to use up the remaining bond funds from the streets project, and then we were going to put fund balance in with it. It's showing a big negative for this year because that's nothing to think about. But normally how we budget this, we take the sales tax and divide it 3 ways over street, sidewalk, and drainage, and then to the sales tax goes to streets. Transportation fee gets divided 3 ways. And then we always budget that he's going to spend every penny of it so that he doesn't have to come back to you, because this is for street, sidewalk, and drainage maintenance. And then the interest in there, I always budget really low because we never know. So the change in fund balance is showing this our INS fund or debt fund. We are required as part of our property tax rate is dictated to us to cover the required expenditures to cover our debt. And so, or 99 cents per $100,000 of evaluation. We do get some delinquent tax and some penalty and interest on those delinquent tax. And down below are all the debts that we're paying. Okay, that is it for budget hearing. Does anybody have any questions?
I just had one kind of question and concern. This heat has kicked up and there's dryness everywhere and the likelihood of fires have increased dramatically. I'm just looking at the fire department's training is the same as KRB's, their budget. Like KRB gets $3,000 a year for training and our fire department gets $3,000.
They do.
I think there's like a level of priority that we as a city
They do pay
for
for a
public
lot of their
safety.
training out of their own money. They get the fire department voluntary fee up until 2 years. We don't have any say or knowledge or oversight on the money that they have in their own account. And that's where that goes. But historically, they paid for all their training, and then last year they asked if we could start helping.
I'm just looking at the numbers here.
Yeah.
From what I see, or if anybody else were to see it, and
City money.
think.
Caribbean.
Say again?
Caribbean's not tax money.
I understand. I'm
Yeah.
just looking at what us as
But-
a city are spending resources on for training,
Yes.
whether it comes from tax money or whatnot. Fire department training to save lives in public infrastructure versus growing some cucumbers. Having more training.
Yeah, and historically, we had less in there, and they cover it because.
Last year they had 6,000 and KRB had 5,500.
2 years ago, I think it was 500. But they always covered their training out of their own money. That's a portion of their
As long
training.
as
What percent would you say that is the city versus what the fire department?
I have absolutely no
We don't
idea.
know what training.
We
they
don't
do
know.
We
or
have
who
no
goes to
insight
Mark,
or.
is there any word that you can give us? You guys
We
got
don't know
enough money for
which
training?
Which firefighters
Depends on
know.
the year. When we have, this year we've spent more money on training than we have in years past. And it depends on people coming in. It depends on how much money we can get from grants. We get a lot of money from grants that pays back.
Just curious.
Yeah, it's,
And this is what the
Just
fire
trying to
department.
calibrate to Roy's.
This is what the fire
Roy's
department
We don't
requested
know
of
what
the
training they
city.
do or how much they spend
Yeah.
annually in
I'm
training.
just trying to get a feel.
Yeah.
Is there any reporting or anything that we get that would give us some better insight?
Clint is working on the first report now.
Okay, because no deficiencies are.
But the numbers under any of the departments, we're talking about fire now, are what we've gone over with the fire department twice, and what they requested. Anything else?
Call for public comment.
No one has a question?
No.
Do we have any public comments on the matter? Proposed 2023-2024 budget. Moving on to public hearing on proposed 2023-2024 tax rate.
And here, hand again. So the last 2 pages of your packet I gave you are talking about tax rate. The rate take my hands off.
We don't have a budget to fix that.
I didn't do anything on equipment or furniture.
Just gonna keep my hands.
Gorilla Glue.
At the top of page 14 is our property tax rate that we are proposing, is what all other tax rates are built on. That is taking the existing properties on the last tax year, the revenue we got from those, and making sure we don't get any more, and adds 3.5%. The rate I am proposing is a little higher than the voter approval rate. It's allowing 8% increase from the no new revenue tax rate, but it is below the threshold for where there is a potential Our debt rate, as I talked about earlier, at 0.98764. As you can see, that's gone down as well as some of our notes are aging. The payments are going down a little bit. And also with the higher assessed value, obligation is $490,104, and that's what it will take to collect that. Does anybody have questions on those options? The chart at the bottom is showing our current rate, which is 0.606810. The county raised everybody's assessed values by 10% this year. So the second line, every other line is 10% higher than the one previous. So that you can see that even for pay less tax than what they currently paid this year. Any questions? Okay. The next page, and you've seen some of these charts before. First one with they reassessed everybody. That was due to the county. They were audited by the state and found to be undervaluing. So everybody was reevaluated and 10% went up. Then the chart with the blue bars, the proposed rate is the lowest in those years by quite a bit. The little chart on the bottom, I did some homework and found rates for other cities in our area. I hear all the time we have the highest anywhere. So, and you look at some of the cities that have a lower tax rate, they also get a lot of money from sales tax and they get a lot of money from the plants, some of them.
Hate to live in this
So I would say well at managing where it falls. Any questions on that?
Just to be clear and to clarify, no new revenue, we are increasing our revenue by 6%, right?
So when you figure in the new construction, it's 6.8%. But just based on properties that were here a year ago, it's 8% overall. Because their assessed value went up.
And if I remember right, you said that?
Now, if we, one discussion about lowering tax rate, every year is based on the year before. So this year, our tax rate is calculated using what was used last year for that no new revenue rate, and then all rates are built on that. So the lower we go this year, is still giving a reduction. It's not a big reduction, but it is a reduction to our citizens. And even if you figure in what they're going to pay for the ambulance rate, most of them are going to pay less. But we haven't sacrificed anything. We still have a little more revenue to work with, which is good because we have a little more expenditure. So I feel that this is the best option for the city for its financial health. Any questions?
Thank you.
This is also open for public comments. If anybody wishes to speak, please come up or stay where you're at. No comments? Moving on. Discussion and action items. A, discussion and possible action concerning any final changes to the fiscal year 2023-2024 proposed budget. Anybody have anything they would like to speak about?
FY 23 and 24 proposed budget.
What's the change?
The $3.50 ambulance fee.
So you propose your motion to, what do you want to change it to?
Remove it.
So we have a motion to remove the ambulance fee from the budget? New.
Fee schedule later for that. The budget, you're voting on expenditures only.
Yes.
I include the revenue for your information as a guide.
Approve the ordinance amending the fee schedule, and she'll have to remove those
That will
expected
change the bottom
revenues
line.
from the bottom line. So
That's
that,
item E.
Was that
Yes.
a motion that Kirsten?
yes. Well, it was a motion to remove it, but it's not in there. It was a motion to remove the EMS fee, but it's not an expenditure. It's a revenue.
But it should be on item E, right?
Yes,
It-
that's
That's the
correct.
ordinance, yes. Yes, sir. Not combining either, not
If you
the
have
same.
anything on the budget expenditure-wise that
As a
you
form.
want.
Do you want a motion to remove the $3.50 ambulance fee from the budget? So we'll call for a second.
Does anybody wish to second Mr. Challenger's motion?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay. Okay. Let the record reflect Mr. Challenger was the only one in favor.
So here is not where we would adopt the budget. This is just if anybody wants to propose changes, Mike.
Okay.
The next item is, yes, where we will formally adopt, if somebody would like to.
Do we have any other actions?
I think my concern that I brought up, just as a discussion, point of discussion, about the fire department's training budget, you know, as long as we don't know the finite number as well, but as long as, you know, they're kosher and good with it, then, you know, I feel comfortable with it. I'm just looking at what's presented on paper and ink, and it says 3,000.
Is their fee. One is the fire department. They've been presented with that at two separate individual meetings with
Yeah,
that
I'm just looking at
department,
training.
so,
I don't
yeah.
know where the money's going.
So, and that's just a
As
portion.
long as they're,
My only comment here, opportunity to ask these questions, to get every bit of information that you have about the fire department is from somebody other than the fire department. That's the only comment I have on that, is that I know about the fire department, and we got one response, so that's my comment.
okay.
Mayor, Council, I think to be clear, and I mean crystal clear, they were at 2 budget hearings. They presented their budget. Their budget was approved, except was approved by Mark and by the fire chief. So to say this was not discussed, it has been discussed in public hearing and discussed in budget hearings. It's getting rather upsetting to hear this. It's never been discussed, or it's only been on one side. We have not, and I believe you've all received that email, any reporting from the fire department as per the MOU agreement. The table, they both approved the budget. This is the budget that they've approved.
Well, we're gonna roll with this then.
That's why I'm just getting it on record that it's
Rory makes a good point. You
Not
know,
an
that
issue.
new things do arise, and we have new things do come up. And I think that what he's saying seems appropriate.
Yes, I'm fully aware we've discussed it before in the past. I'm just putting it on record that everybody's good with it.
Okay?
I would see if there's any other motions that anyone wants to make on this item.
Hey,
See if there's any other motion or discussion.
is there any other motion that anybody wishes to make on action item A?
No.
Moving on to B. A budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2023 and ending September 30th, 2020. Who would like to begin?
Is this the one where we have to have the exact verbiage, like the prior years, it has to be like verbatim?
That's on the tax rate, but
Alright, good.
But this isn't tax rate yet.
No,
no, but I,
just budget.
yeah.
So this one, just looking for a motion to
Let me
approve
get your
this
language
budget.
real
right? Ordinance 23-509, ordinance appropriating, adopting a budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2023 and ending September 30th.
Councilmember Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Challenger, how do you vote?
Nay.
Councilmember Reynolds, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries.
You might have to do some math on the fly.
She heard math.
My language is, the language that I have is based on the rate you propose. So if we want to propose a different rate, we might need some quick math. You're the only one I know that does quick math. It's not me. I know it's not me.
Let me go to my computer.
Just know that it's
I have it.
my screen right. How about me? Oh, frazzled here. Okay. So this is with the tax rate that staff has proposed. Is that correct, Trish?
Yes.
Okay. See if anybody wants to discuss or make a motion. That's just there in case somebody wants to make that motion.
Can we just approve 0.504587 without saying all the other stuff?
No, it has to be this language.
You have to
to
specify
the
the
motion has to
percent
be
decrease.
that.
Everything to highlight.
Yes.
That's why you need quick math.
Yes.
Yes.
Because
So this is item C.
Rate of 0.540587, which is effectively a 10.91% decrease in the tax rate.
Second.
Second.
Ooh, that was quick. Is there any discussion on this item?
No, I think you brought up a great point to let the public know that the tax rate is the lowest it's ever been in, since 2014. I know everybody hears taxes and they think, they like to point at the city and our property taxes, but, we don't control fair. So, thank you.
it's very specific for law.
Okay. Councilmember Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Challenger, how do you vote? Councilmember Reynolds, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Fountain, how do you vote?
Aye.
Let the record reflect, the motion carries.
Thank you all. I can relax now.
Ooh, take a deep
Thanks for all
breath,
the hard
everybody.
work. Thanks. I know I
Tricia's
kind of
bouncing
grilled
right
you
now.
last
Stood up
time,
for
last
2.5
time, but thank you
hours.
for all the hard work.
Yes.
I think it's.
Okay. Moving on to D, discuss and consider approving tax resale of property located within the city of Richwood. Legal description, Glenwood Bayou. Survey is A0066JE, gross, Richwood, Reserve H, acres .11.
So do you want me to print it here or you want to?
Go ahead.
So this is the land that I think up to the city to approve their accepted bid. And I think I've given y'all the documentation on it.
So yes, we've already been made aware of this.
Yeah, I think it was discussed.
Okay, here we are. Discussion item E. Discuss and consider adopting ordinance 23-512, amending Appendix C, fee. Add a mandatory ambulance fee.
Mayor, Council, I think we're all aware of the ambulance situation either here or there. I would like to point out one, I think, valid point that we did not have. Clute is at $450 now. They're raising theirs to $550. Freeport is $250, and Angleton is $450. And that's information we did not have, I believe, at the last meeting. So I wanted to bring that on service, just for discussion.
Thanks for the update.
You bet.
Anybody want to add?
I was explaining this ambulance fee to one of our apartment complex managers. And I came up with an analogy, and I kind of liked it, so I thought I'd share it. If somebody came to my door and said, for $42 a year, your guests will not have to pay for ambulance, your whole family will not have to pay for ambulance, I'd buy it. This is basically what this ambulance fee is. It's $42 for a home, so they will not have to pay the hundreds or even thousands above that. If they don't have insurance, they can get medical help without going bankrupt, at least to get to the medical help, for a $42 insurance policy. So I just wanted to share that analogy.
Isn't just for residents of Richwood.
Right.
I mean, we could have two contractors working a turnaround coming from the port in Waco, and they have an accident up here at the intersection of 2004 and 288B, you know, and their insurance pays so much, but that's our jurisdiction, our ETJ. Now the city is on the hook for it. So a lot of analogies of like retirees and these great examples, but this is a city that is serving its ETJ.
Right.
So it necessarily is not residents of Richwood. It could be anybody that has an accident
Right.
and uses ambulance services in Richwood.
Because there was some discussion of whether it should be, you know, tax money paying for it or this fee. And they don't necessarily benefit from the ambulance service. They may live who knows where. So the people paying this $350 a month, this $42 for a year, are the residents, the ones renting their home, the ones that will benefit if they need to call an ambulance.
I said at the beginning,
Okay.
I got now just consider that not everybody has the ability. And that's, I think for such a small fee, I mean, you're talking pennies per resident. You're gonna have, and as that analogy was, you're not going to go bankrupt because of it.
Thank you.
Rory brought up an interesting point about the ETJ as well. ETJ accounted for, from August to August, 22 to August of 23, there was 112 runs in our ETJ. Broken down when combined, that's 350, roughly extremely low for the service we pay. But I think if you're looking towards a guiding light, which Clute is our ambulance provider, they maintain great paramedics, they maintain great ambulance equipment. I have not had a single complaint in almost the 4 years that I've been here about hemorrhaging cash. So part and parcel is, while I agree with what Mr. Page says, and I agree with what council says, and subsidization of this to keep it up and running, or it will go defunct.
I think it's dishonest to raise revenue under the disguise of an ambulance fee.
Sure. Yes, sir.
So if I understand correctly, if you're in the city of Richwood, whether you live here or not, come on Harley across the highway, dump it in the ditch and end up in an ambulance. Regardless of my insurance, the other residents of Richwood are gonna pay for my ambulance ride. Is that how I understand that?
That's
Maybe
correct.
it's now,
You won't be
yes,
billed.
coming out of tax money.
It's already that way.
Just what,
But again, to be clear, if you are insured and they are able to capture that revenue through the Medicare, Medicaid allowable portion, that will be captured on the insignificant amount beyond that doesn't get paid, that we don't capture.
my only thing is I guess, playing both sides of the fence. I understand it, I get it. But at the same time, you know, you'll have people paying this fee for an ambulance ride that the city or them will never pay for it. You know, like, the residents are paying for it, the VA pays for all my stuff. And it doesn't matter how I get transported or anything else. So, that's one thing I look at. You're gonna have some residents who are gonna be like, well, I'm not paying for this. I don't need y'all to pay for my stuff, so I'm not paying for someone else's.
Mr. Harrison, if you don't mind, with the
That's
fee.
what I'm talking about, like, you know, asking them to pay for it versus making them pay for it. Does that make sense?
I think in regards to that, I understand your point. What we have to remember is technically, by charter, we don't have to offer ambulance service.
You don't want to pay it, you don't have the money to pay for it, say, okay, then we're not doing this, and.
But I think a lot of people would agree that if you live in a city, you expect certain things, fire, police, ambulance, and things of that nature. And since it's not in our charter, it's not covered or anything like that. So we have to find a way in order to offset that cost that we're expending, you know. I mean, I'd drive myself half dead before I'd probably get an ambulance. It's just who I am. But it's, and I get it. I don't want to see any more fees or anything like that. And that's kind of one of the things I brought up. I think moving on next year, maybe in the time being, with expenses just going through the roof on everything, we've got to be able to still provide this service and somehow offset the cost for it.
And I understand that. I'm not saying I'm for it or against it, because I see both sides. People see it on the bill and go, well, I don't even need this service. You know, I mean, me personally, those guys right there, I'd put theirs mandatory first. I mean, it's been voluntary for so long, and like, I mean, honestly, we have a volunteer fire department. Who pays the bills for running all those trucks, for all the water, for all the multiple ambulance rides?
Well, the city is under charter, we have to provide fire service, and we do. We have a full department that is funded to allow coverage of the fire department. They do have a voluntary fee that they can use at their discretion, provide really. The same with police. We are mandated by our charter to provide police.
I guess what I'm saying is, if you were to make them mandatory, I'd like to see all of them mandatory, because those guys right there, I'm gonna tell you, I can't tell you how many times I've seen them run past the store we work in. I've seen them running out past Lake Jackson's, the woods on fire, and, you know, all over the place. And to me, it's one of those things where, how do you justify saying?
City's general fund to offset our costs for that.
It goes straight to
It
them.
goes, it's similar to how KRB is. The donations just go to KRB.
Or
Just go to
very
fire
akin
department.
to CCPD.
The city just writes a check to the
That's
fire
what I'm asking,
department.
just so I can understand.
Right.
Yeah, CCPD has a 0.5% of sales tax. Now, I accumulate, that's similar to the fire department, except their money is supposed to that. I don't account for it, I don't.
In essence, budget the whole
I
amount.
understand.
In my well, I could live here 75 years and never call the police, but I still pay for it in taxes, you know?
So we don't know what tomorrow's gonna be.
Yeah, it's just, it's kind of, I've always told folks, even in all my business and everything, you know, you can slice a pie any way you want it, you're gonna pay for it one way or the other. It's just where you see it. It's the cost.
So you mentioned because it's not in the city charter. She's not around Tuesday. We've got a city charter review coming up next year.
Right.
So
Every 2 years.
just keep in mind, this is a good discussion for
Right.
then.
It is.
Let's go ahead and pay that. You know what that is?
And nothing
I'll email it right to you.
into our fee schedule today is carved in stone and can never be changed.
Right.
Increased, decreased, or eliminated. But right now, looking at the budget, those that live in the city.
And keep in mind, not that I'm promising a reduction by any means, but we go out for bid on the ambulance service again, and that's coming up. You know, we'll be visiting this again, probably hopefully by next meeting or shortly thereafter. So we'll get a good snapshot of what is available out there, what is not available out there.
So just to be clear, if we did not approve the fee, would that reduce our revenue by $100,000, as it
Yes,
says
it would.
right here?
Yes,
And what
it
would
would.
what was that $100,000 going to go towards?
The $191,000. That can fluctuate. Budgets are projections, they're educated guesses.
And I think, in what Trish is saying there, and the reason we don't want to be so close is, in the past, we were hemorrhaging expenses. You know, we just didn't have the money to do anything. And if anything, we have to have that padding in there.
The last 3 years when I built the budget, I built it with increasing sales tax. This budget that we're currently under, I built it with an increase in sales tax. We've seen nothing but a decrease. If we would have had a very close budget,
I thought the mayor got that there.
So are we looking for a motion on E?
Yes, we are. Anyone wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to of the Code of Ordinance to amend additional fees and voluntary donations to add a mandatory ambulance fee.
I'll second.
Any more discussion on this topic?
I think Mr. Page brought a great, point that next charter review, this should be something to look at, but put as mandatory as,
Agreed.
it's a public safety concern.
Nay.
Councilmember Reynolds, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Fountain, how do you vote?
Aye.
Let the record reflect the motion carries. Okay, we'll have ambulances for a little while longer. Okay, discussion and action item F, discuss and consider adopting ordinance 23-511, repealing section 20-131 of chapter 20, traffic and vehicles of the Richwood Code of Ordinances, thus removing the one-way traffic requirement during the school zone.
So with the Polk stacking lanes, a couple months ago, we did the no parking on Audubon Woods Drive. This is
Saw
to
the red.
remove the one-way that's further down, that's no longer needed, since repeal the one-way school zone. All other school zones will remain in effect.
Are you guys gonna still need resources, Steve, to do traffic control every day once that one way is taken up?
We certainly go out there every day. Thus far, police service, things are flowing pretty well.
Okay, great.
So if I'm correct, the public safety brought this to our attention? Is that correct?
It was kind of a conjunction of PD and Public Works.
Just based off
Motion
the
to
past.
approve. Like a motion to approve. Discuss adopting ordinance 23-511, repealing section Code of Ordinance. Oh, you moved it.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's removing the one-way traffic requirement
Apologize.
during the school zone.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record reflect the motion carries. Everybody's saying aye on the same pitch. Hard to decipher. G, discussion and action item G, discuss and consider authorizing the city manager or his designee to solicit competitive bids for emergency medical services.
Mayor, Council, perfect timing for this subject. Like I said, our contract expires in taking into consideration what council's already discussed about with all the billing options available as we had discussed during the budget meetings, and we'll try to include all of that in there and some options as well. But we do need to send this out and see what's available.
Would that be something that we could do without bid?
Yes, sir.
It is, but it's going to require Clute's approval.
Okay.
If you so desire, we can carry that forward to Clute and ask them if they want either or.
I'd like a motion to do that initially. And we can always.
Competitive bid.
Yes, sir.
Motion to-
What was that?
What was your motion?
Motion again?
To extend with Clute.
Okay.
Instead of go for bids.
Okay.
When we say go for bids, does that include extending with Clute?
I would assume so,
they
yes.
could rebid.
Can you take that action on this item? Solicit bids for EMS. Can
Motion was?
To extend with Clute.
the action be to just extend our current contract?
No, but there's a motion on it, though.
The contract already has it in,
I know, but the language in the action, or the posted agenda item, I don't know if that action can be taken since we didn't publish it as a possibility of extending the contract. So we would need to bring this back for another meeting.
Yes.
But you want to go on with this?
But that's a competitive bid, isn't it?
No,
It's not.
a bid is me
It's a
mailing
contract
them out and
extension.
taking in bids, having a bid opening.
It's a formal bid process.
The RFP, Mike, going through the whole process,
Yeah.
posting it, getting the bids back, grading them, and then
So we're gonna
approving.
table this then until next month?
We have a
Well,
motion, we have a motion.
We have to
Motion to.
finish your motion
Okay.
that you
Correct.
made first.
Right.
Anyone wish to second that motion? Okay,
motion to table.
the motion dies.
Motion
Okay,
dies.
and now
Now you can do it.
Table item G
I
to
think we
include
have
extending the bid with Clute
Yes, please.
as
Second.
stated.
Second.
Okay.
We have discussion on this item before we vote.
Yeah.
I have one thing to say, and I'm not questioning anybody's intelligence or anything like that by any means, but regardless of whether you go out for bids or December, why would you not go ahead and go out for bids, go ahead and approve that, let him see what's out there, and then if it gets to that point in December where you need to extend, you can do that, because I mean, we're already in September. By the time you go out for bids, get them back, you're gonna be like cutting your throat, like the timeline's gonna be so short. I don't understand why it's such a big deal to just jump and say, hey, we'll approve it just to see what the bids are, to see what the cost is. Possibly lower the cost even from what we're paying now, and still have that on the back burner where you can extend with Clute for a year, if I'm understanding that correctly. You're pretty much,
Rebid it at a different,
Yes.
Different rate.
and if we
And
go
it'd be
out for
pointless for
bid,
them to
does
extend
that-
our agreement if they can make us pay
Does that
more money.
nullify the option to extend it?
I don't know the answer to that question per se. I would not if I were Clute. I would say, okay, we're
To also ask and then find out what other ambulance services are there. It's kind of like the trash service. We can go tell Waste Connections, oh, we're not going to use you. All right, well, realistically, who is there down here? You're stuck with them. It's a monopoly. So who's going to service RETJ? Probably
can I
none.
give y'all one piece of research from the county that I can guarantee you? Clute, ambulance, is considered, not just in Missouri County, but other areas, one of the best in the state of Texas.
Yeah, I'm
They
not.
have been rated
Yeah,
one of
not
the best.
denying that. I'm just saying what other, like, there's nobody servicing the area, just like the
When
landfill and
did
the
we
trash
bid it
service.
How much like Jackson wanted to add to it.
I'm sorry, 2018?
18.
2018 was the last bid we had, and
Clute was our only
Clute was our only respondent.
I don't think any other ambulance services moved to town in those 5 years.
No. Not unless Debbie
Did you
John
have
fired
something?
something up.
In the hole, yeah. They don't want to get more in the hole.
Yeah.
And I believe Clute's in the hole as well. I mean,
I would also like to say one thing to consider, and I know that Eric will get us the best deal, but our departments.
Oh, it's gonna cost us to
this is not a
change
good place
radios.
to go out for the lowest bid.
We're gonna have to update CAD, RMS, the radio connections. It's gonna cost reprogramming.
And we broached that subject when Chief was looking at dispatch options as well. It's not the face value of the contract itself. It is, we would have to buy supplemental radios, reprogramming, and potentially buying another console for whomever the host agency was. So, we were looking at an additional $50K right off the bat, just to make it work.
Sounds
So
like
we have
Clute.
we have a motion in a second. Oh, go ahead.
I'm just saying, it sounds like Clute is our best option at this point, but
So.
I think only option.
I think we're
Yes.
fortunate that we have a
Y'all
it's
risk
okay.
messing up a bit deal with them buying these
Well, I don't think we mess it up because I think a lot of their staff that they have is hinging on.
Yeah.
With the additional, it's happening on the next two.
They'd have to go back and readjust their rate.
It's a win on both sides.
Yeah.
All in favor on this, council?
Aye.
Okay.
Things are back.
Everybody aye? Motion carries. That was a very quiet one.
We'll go back to, oh my God. I'm
Just get
jumping
comfy.
way ahead.
We're rolling.
Gotta load this up tonight.
Okay. Discussion and action item H. Discuss and consider request to allow street closure of Audubon Woods Drive from north trunk or treat.
Okay, so if anybody can remember pre-COVID events in the city, you might remember we used to host trunk or treat in the street. The cars would park in the road, pop their trunks, the kids would have a great time. We're looking to go back to that with KRB, and Polk has expressed interest in kind of conjoining their fall fest with our trunk or treat, and then us closing the road would allow them to have, we probably wouldn't close all the way to Wisteria, we'd probably let people get into the parking lot of Polk to attend both events, and then that way kids and families are safely traveling from the school to the pavilion and down the trunk or treat.
ARB had an event the same night that Polk did, and it was a
Awesome.
huge
It was
success.
awesome.
The families really enjoyed having both places to go back and forth to. The school loved it. They said they had never had participation like that before.
Ended up awesome too.
Yeah, I've spoken to her several times, Ms. Bundy, and I've stayed in contact with her because she wants to start doing a lot more things with the city, with the school, like interjoining and stuff. And so I spent probably about 30, 45 minutes with her talking about this, and she would love to be part of it. And with the street closure, we would just go up to that, what is it, east entrance?
Near the entrance to
So
Polk.
they can also use that parking lot, they can still go in there. And I know Polk's really excited about joining in with it, so.
So it just needs kind of council's blessing on getting the street closure established. The date, we will get it published. Exactly quite sure of what date, but we're looking October 27th for trunk or treat, and that will be the street closure will probably start around 5 o'clock.
Friday.
It's a Friday evening.
So they're gonna have more than one Halloween?
Who?
The kids?
Yes.
More
They have
candy for
one-
you.
yeah.
I would love to be a dentist next month.
Ambulance dentist.
Anyone wish to make a motion?
I'll
to
make a
the kids
motion
safer?
to approve item H.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The kids are gonna have 2 Halloweens. Do we get to go?
Yes. There's been,
Should be still warm.
it was discussed, so maybe the mayor would do that.
Be sure and put some ice cubes in it.
And stage 2, drought restrictions.
Yes, we can't do that right now,
Maybe we'll get
Save
some rainwater.
unless we capture a broken water
Bring some
line.
water
We'll
from
get
Lake
bayou water.
Jackson.
We'll use recycled water. It's okay. It's perfectly safe according to.
Don't get any.
Okay, discussion and action item I, discussion regarding the contingency fund and future contributions or uses of the funds.
Mayor Council, this was due to the last council meeting. In looking at the way we use and utilize the contingency fund basis, it's based on the city charter. The city charter basically outlines that 10% of all expenditures withheld for contingency fund. And one of the issues was brought up, well, how much do we keep? How much do we stockpile? How much do we keep in arrears for a rainy day, or for Mr. Johnson brought up was, let's put a cap on it, and then anything above and beyond a certain amount we utilize for, whatever else comes along. So in talking with staff and brainstorming this and trying to figure out, one of the things that we have several items of in the past create accounts for I&I fund or a capital fund or replace. Sometimes gets overlooked in the budgeting process due to shortcoming. What council wants in this, a suggestion is put a cap on it, and by resolution say at what point, whether it be $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million, whatever that case may be, at that point that triggers by resolution notice to council and do exactly like we did last go around when we had council can pick from the supplementals for the overage and move on from there. My only question, I guess, would be a legal question, is anything capping or donating or requiring a specific use at that point by resolution, and then utilizing the money wherever council sees fit through the use of supplemental. I'm not sure how that would work, Philip. What are your thoughts?
Can you kind of rephrase that? 'Cause that
Can be held back for contingency, which we've done.
okay.
Council is concerned that that's an ever-growing pot of money, and then we'll put a cap on it. So my suggestion to council is by 2025 will be at $1.5 million. If council so desires, at that point, that would trigger notification to council. In the 25 budget year, we will be at that target. If it's, say, hypothetically 1.5, we will bring whatever is available after that in the form of supplementals. Replacement, a street replacement. I'm afraid I would not like to see council designate it to a specific fund, because we tend to underfund those anyway.
And they become restricted.
They become restricted to just that item, whereas, as you're all aware, we're fluid and dynamic, and whatever the case may be. We've done equipment replacement because we had that money. We've done storm cleanup because we've had that money.
Equipment.
Yeah, a lot of equipment. And that's my suggestion, throwing money into a slush fund. You want it utilized for the city, and we've discussed that, and that's why last supplementals. But if the contingency is capped, do it by resolution. Triggers the notice to council that we will bring you the supplementals. We have X. What are your thoughts on that?
I suggest instead of a number like 1.5 million or whatever, I suggest a percentage of budget, because as the years progress, whatever that number is, I suggest go with a percent rather than growing. Someday we're going to be a metropolis, and you know, maybe table this one, and we got a lot on the plate for today. And
sure.
So I make a motion to table until next month on this,
It's not an action item.
and let Eric go back and think about it. And
Yeah, this is just discussion only. It's just to
Oh,
kind of get
just
everybody's,
discussion.
We'll bring something more concrete.
it's just to get everybody's kind of feel
No,
for
but
what
I
they
mean, I agree with you, Mike, of a percentage would be, just like the fees, we put a fee, but if we don't update our fees in 10 years, that fee doesn't rise.
Yeah.
We're gonna hit $1 million with this contribution that's in this budget, and that would put us at about a third.
Is it an interest bearing account? Or it accrues
I keep a lot of that in my office.
He lays in it.
Yes, it's an interest bearing.
So
No, we don't do that.
It's in our,
Yeah.
it's in our investment.
So it's like, yeah,
We need a laugh.
it's an interest bearing account.
What's the percentage on it?
It fluctuates so much, but right now it's between 4 and 5%.
contingency fund is that we can hold 10% back of expenditure, well, additionally fund 10% of expenditures as a contingency for that year.
It's the
Yeah.
contribution for that.
And I suppose the question would, for 12 months, don't spend it, what happens to that money? We just keep saving it.
Yes.
If we're going to save it, we definitely need a process and a plan for it. You know, maybe just a suggestion, mayor approves some.
Right
So-
That's what we bring the supplementals
Right.
for.
I think my concern is from the aspect of our ability to only fund the government for a year. What happens to it if we don't spend it
So
that year?
The contingency fund continues to sit there.
Mm-hmm.
It is not restricted. Can't just go spend it willy-nilly.
But it grows. We don't lose it at
But
the end of the year.
it doesn't
Back to
go
fund
away.
balance.
It grows. We started out with 0 4 years ago. On 10/1, I will transfer this 290 and we'll be at $1 million plus the interest it's accrued. And it will continue to grow unless we have to spend it. But we can only spend it with council approval.
Well, that's part of the concern is the actual spending of the money. You know, we can say if we want to say it's an emergency fund, because I know there was a lot of conversation in the last meeting about this is for emergencies, this is for emergencies. You know, if it's for emergencies, the emergency fund, I just don't want to see us, you know, in a situation where we've moved on with life and now it's a new council and they spend it on, you know, I don't know, something crazy, I guess. You know.
I mean, it could be unexpected occurrences like hurricane damage, anything non-budgeted that comes up that the council votes is needed. So it's not like, oh, we have this money, let's go.
But the spending that you refer to may be fund balance spending, not contingency fund spending.
Yes.
A council just wanting to buy something may come out of fund balance, not contingency. Like, the last year they approved me to buy the sign, that came out of fund balance.
Last meeting, and thank you for bringing it up. You know, just a little bit of research. It's basically as a safety net if we under budget in a particular year. We have the ability to fund that. It's just concerning to get into an issue with, you know, funding for future.
What you're saying is if we have a percentage so that every year we know we have this percentage in that contingency fund to, if we under budget something or there's a major storm or there's a major breakdown somewhere, as long as we have that percentage in that account, as we get above that percentage, then we can do something.
It could theoretically be wiped out with one hurricane.
Oh, yeah,
you know?
easy.
But at the end of every year, I analyze our finances, and if departments have gone over budget with unexpected things, like say Claire or Kirsten went and I bring a budget amendment. That's also for unexpected things that happen during the year, such as 2 years ago, it was the Magnolia Street project. We used to bring budget amendments almost every month. It got really tedious and kind of ridiculous. So now I do them, big ones I'll do when they occur, year that way. So I have to bring a budget amendment that will take it out of fund balance, basically. Fund balance is different than contingency.
Oh, okay.
Contingency is set aside to be used at the council's discretion for unexpected major.
Suppose that brings up a good point, but would that be for during that fiscal year?
Contingency, no, the money builds.
I think it just keeps accruing.
The whole pot's available to us every year.
But again,
I mean, as long as we're not going to get into a constitutional problem with it. That's my concern.
And I think that's the point. Does that cap move forward, and what mechanism triggers that? And like I said, my only issue was that it's designated by charter, and that's fine. I just don't want to get into a charter issue. If we want to set that cap, set it by resolution. That triggers the report to council. Then we bring a street project, or like the street we need to redo now with the drainage project. Cypress Court. And Misty Court.
Albert.
Just something that I had seen from just another city. This is what they did. They said withdrawals, no money shall be withdrawn from the contingency fund except by transmitted by a vote of the majority of the entire council, clearly stating the facts. Huh?
That's what we did.
Which city are you reading this from?
I don't know. Just it says code publishing.
But that's basically how it works.
It's another city's ordinance.
Yeah.
Or charter probably.
Yeah.
That you're
So,
reading.
yeah,
I'm saying
what
as
we
an
did
example.
That's why he's saying we don't have that in charter, so, and y'all can't change charter. So my recommendation was to do a resolution or an opinion of council that contingency shouldn't grow to a certain amount, or it should grow only to a certain amount. And then if charter.
I don't see it should.
Yeah.
Okay.
My recommendation was just a resolution opinion.
No, just a discussion. There's no actions here.
Yeah.
Good
Because
enough.
that sounds like it's somebody's actual
Oh
charter,
yeah.
which is.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure
Yeah.
some stuff out on it. And thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna roll back to consent agenda. And we're gonna start with B. We're gonna appoint Kai York to keep Richwood Beautiful Committee.
Any discussion?
Somebody on KRB, anybody? Nothing? Anyone wish to make a motion?
Do we
do
announce
all
it
of
as,
them.
how do we announce it, like, as
We
a
all
city?
removed each item from, so we have to now go
Oh.
through each item.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve item B.
No second?
Item C, appoint Denise York to keep Richwood Beautiful Committee.
Make a motion to approve item C.
I had a question on it for,
Go ahead, sir.
like the last time. Do we, like, where do we announce this as the city? Like,
That we're
for-
taking applications?
Right.
We didn't take announce applications for KRB, they just submitted applications to me and we had spots open.
Okay.
We spot, so then we had an empty spot, and then Mrs. Ellis is no longer in the city temporarily, and so we're gonna fill her spot and just make her an honorary forever member. Just
In fact, so
so
we did have it on Facebook, did we not?
we're knocking and just seeing who wants to help. Some people that had kind of reached out to members, and so the applications. We didn't seek applications for KRB. No,
Okay. I'm just asking, so make sure that everybody has a fair, equitable chance to.
it
put their
wasn't
name forward.
advertised because
There's also not a seat limit, Rory.
yeah, anybody
So
can be on. We can have as many. Yeah.
it's, if there were to be 4 more people who came out of the blue and said we want to be on the board, there's nothing barring them.
Okay,
Amanda, did you make that motion? I'm sorry.
yes, we
I did.
in a second already.
Who made the second?
Mike.
I did not hear. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, the motion carries.
I thought he already
Consent
was.
agenda item 23 to 2025, representative for Brazosport Water Authority.
Having the same person on that is, I think, really important because there's just so much to take in. I think you've been doing it, what, like a year now, maybe close to it?
No.
6 months, 7 months?
However long you've been on council.
Yeah, no, that's what I was trying to
Don't
think,
give me
yeah.
that much credit, come on.
Yeah, you've been on council.
That's right.
He's on there.
Position is Richwood's 2023-2025 representative for BWA.
I'll second.
And is that something that we announced for other, I mean, once again, I'm just asking, just like for KRB, how do we announce so citizens of Richwood can have a fair and equitable chance?
We did not, as Jeremy pointed out, staff feels it's important to keep the continuity.
But I
Had
think
Mr. Yerson not wanted the position, it would be advertised,
We were notified August 3rd,
correct?
so I'm just kind of curious on why we can't announce to our citizens to
And
say,
then there, because it's a lot, and there's a lot going on at BWA, and if we try to change it out I mean, he hasn't been there that long, and he was willing. If he wasn't willing, it would have been advertised. Just the same thing with Mr. Fountain. When he was on BWA, we did not advertise it. If he wanted to continue, we kept him.
Actually, I believe.
I feel like we remember a lot.
Okay, so we had a motion and a second for Jeremy and Amanda's.
I really did.
Any more discussion?
Is there any more discussion on
No.
Mr. Yerson? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Bobby Boucher.
Thank you very much.
I enjoy it. That's a scary
It's a lot.
Water boy.
And thanks to Kai York and Denise York
Yes.
helping out keep Richwood beautiful. Okay. We are going to executive session, and the time is now 7:45. You might need to. Okay. Yes. You're good.
Cliff, my TV's turned off.
You need that stick.
Do we need them on?
Need to fill out a work order. It's an after hours call. That's an after hours call right there. 4-hour minimum.
I'm coming to work.
Steve, until we turn it back down. Because all the bodies left.
It doesn't look like it.
Well, y'all's.
It was warm in there, so it's cold out here.
Can we go back in there?
Yeah, it's freezing up here.
Yeah.
Trying to keep everybody awake. Gets too warm, we go sleep.
And then it gets quiet.
Dun, dun, dun.
We're just waiting for that gavel.
I'm waiting on.
Hey, man.
You're good?
Lawman. Okay. You will just reconvene this regular session at.
Okay. Reconvene this session at, okay. Actions as a result of executive session. Do we have any actions for item A on our executive session? Okay. No action items. Okay. Do we have any action items for our executive session B?
I make a motion to approve item B as requested. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Action items for executive session C.
Make a motion to approve action item C as requested.
I'll second.
This family that's back here, that's been here today. Just
How
so
you
y'all
guys
know.
doing?
Thanks for coming tonight.
Yes, thank you very much.
We didn't know until
So long.
Yeah.
Okay. That ends. That ends that executive. Next, we have capital improvements projects update.
Good.
Do we get to hear from Cliff tonight, actually?
Yeah. On the, on the North Water Plant, the TCQ Step 2 was sent in for approval. We're anticipating to hear back from TCQ on the 26th of September, and after that, we can proceed with final startup of the plant. With that project, the back tees have been taken, samples have been taken, submitted. Samples came back negative for any Coca-Cola form. We did the preliminary startup. Pumps are running. The only thing that had to be changed around was the way that they set the chlorination system up. We had a small breakdown in communication. They changed the way that the chlorine system was set up. Which is needed to pull plungers out in the chlorinated system to pull the chlorine from the bottle into the system so it can be infused with the water. We don't have that kind of distribution pressure in Oakwood Shores or anywhere for Richwood, in Richwood for that matter. Take it back, of course, it'll be at no charge. It'll be a booster pump system which gets the pressure up so it can properly chlorinate. The ARPA emergency generator, the South Water Plant booster pumping station project. We had the pre-construction meeting on 9/7. It's probably going to be a couple months before they get started, at least. But they have 365 days plus another 45 due to a change order we initiated to complete that project. And we having 90% completion of the drawings, having a review with myself sometime this week. And they're anticipating advertising for the generator portion of the project on 9/27. This is we don't know how this is going to come back. The generators, we have a finite amount of money with the ARPA grant and we're not sure how they're going to come back. We'll know more when they do, and additional funds might be necessary, but it's not for certain yet. And the CDBG and map's been provided to public, and they proceeded with the drawings, so as soon as we received the official notice to proceed, we've been on the phone the past couple to the project. There has been some changes. They were initially, of course, it's all streets and drains, which is round culvert. That's going to an existing ditch. It's hard to explain when you aren't standing there, I'm sorry. To the recently rehabilitated ditch, because we have about 2.5 feet more freeboard in that ditch. So we have more depth. So we
That have been occurring?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the
With
new
the cement
drainage
bottom?
for Quail Run and Four Oaks will run to that ditch. There's a parallel ditch all the way to the newly rehabilitated ditch,
Okay.
because we have about 2 more feet of freeboard and they can increase their drop.
Gotcha.
Generally, if we get about an inch or two of drop per about 100 feet, we're doing really good. So, I mean, it's another adjustment to that project is there are going to be overflows put onto the roads where they dead end, being Quail Run and Four Oaks, and those are going to be wide channels. We get stacked up in that ditch, it can't overflow into the secondary ditch. So it's just for redundancy purposes. So the streets, Oakwood Shores, I guess, of Oakwood Shores Drive has been lime stabilized. They had a problem with the milling machine this week. That's why you hadn't seen any progress out there. It broke down, so they've got to get that repaired. I think they'll be ready to go by concrete stabilization. And on the last section, I did talk to superintendent tonight. On the last section that they're going to work on being I think it's going to be from Blue Crab, the asphalt, because the road was crowned right there last time. It's a center median right there at Oakwood Shores Drive. They crowned the road. We don't have the elevation drop enough to have it grade off to asphalt and build it up on the curve of the center median, so they can create that grade so we don't have water sitting up against that median like we have had for the past 1.5 years, I guess. So they're gonna correct that. When they do that, they're gonna shut down that main entrance and divert everybody to Oakwood Trail. Reconstructed. The last portion of reconstruction stops just north of the Oakwood Shores Drive and Blue Crab intersection, 2004. So we have a nice continuous run of asphalt with the newly reconstructed road and what they're doing around the center median. And other than that, that's all I have.
And your new toys?
No, no, they're still pretty fast.
Thank you, Cliff.
You can tell them to borrow textile equipment, because they ain't using it.
You know what you're doing.
No, they just did some today.
Yeah,
Under the
they
bucket.
finally.
Mayor Council short report tonight, just reiterating the, I'd like to pay special thanks to Cliff and Trish with the walks and drainage. But as we close those projects out, those came in $500,000, roughly $500,000 under budget. And I'd like to thank them. Issues, inflation, and exorbitant cost overruns, and they managed to pull these projects in $500,000 to spare. So I greatly appreciate their diligence and keeping an eye on that. Lastly, Mr. Page, thank you for recognizing the safe zone. Got it up and running, and Cliff, thank you for your guys getting that. If you go tonight out here and want to, thank you, Jeremy. And that's all I've got. Thank you, Council.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, do you have anything?
I got a couple things. First off, I want to thank Mr. Guthrie and Will and all the other people that were here that already left. I know we went a little long, but to me, it's always better the more people we have here. I'd like to thank the fire department. I know that they've been out fighting Good job.
Trish, I'd like to thank you for the budget packet. I know you put a lot of blood, sweat. Just had one question because we got trunk or treat coming up. Is the city taking candy donations?
Yes.
Always.
Of course.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
It's all right.
Councilmember Challenger, do you have anything to add, sir?
No, just in recognition, I suppose, of September 11th. I was working. Just remember, looking back on it, that we lost some freedoms, and it's important that we fight for our freedoms. So just freedom's worth fighting for.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Reynolds, do you have anything to add?
I'll echo what Mike said, Mike, Big Mike, as he likes to be called. Thank you all for attending out there. I really do appreciate meetings, so thank you again for coming.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Else. Councilmember Fountain?
Just a big thank you to the staff, and down for another year. We'll work on it again next year.
We're down till February.
Yeah.
We start up February again.
I know it's tough, but thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get started.
Remember those flat tires?
It's gonna be at the new bar in Richwood. Man.
Yes, we may be big
Don't start
customers.
I'd like to also thank everybody that showed up.
Social club.
Appreciate what fire does as well. I think we need to re-evaluate your schedule because you're obviously catching all my pets. But I appreciate all your hard
Is
work
that
with
your
your team.
animals?
I let that one out and he ended up catching it. So.
He was going to whistle them in later.
Anyhow, keep doing what you're doing. Do we have any future agenda items?
Yes, sir. We'll bring back the contingency fund discussion. We'll bring some hard print copy on that. Trish needs to bring you updated financial policy. Hopefully we'll have some, I'll bring back EMS reply. I'll figure out where we're at with that. And the policy for council as well.
And we'll have a Board of Adjustments meeting for 2 variances.
That's it.
That's it.
I would like to add one more thing, that I really look forward to the future of Richwood with all of us up here. So. (9:39) and this meeting is adjourned.